have, my biggest concern, in all honesty, I haven't followed judge elections for a long time, until things really started going sideways the last few years. And now we almost every day see a federal judge literally illegally taking away the rights. I mean, just making up laws to hold somebody from something. In fact, my phone just flashed here with Trump was another judge stepped in the way of justice to keep him from doing justice, essentially. I mean, they're sticking up for the bad guys, and you see this all the time. Trust is broken in the judiciary. I mean, it's, on this level here, it may not seem like that's a big deal, but it's become a big deal. And right here on the grassroots level is where it should be the biggest concern that we have, is that we have trustworthy judges. And, some of us with We the People back in the midterms, five people came forward to us and asked us, they told us that, they took their ballots out of the machine, and Doug Mastriano's name, there was nothing even printed there, it was a blank. I never saw those, I don't know if it was true, but this was reported pretty widespread around the state, and Audit the Vote approached us and asked us if we would consider doing a recount. And so we didn't have to recount the whole county, we just had to go to those 5 precincts where these irregularities were reported at, and do recounts for those precincts. And so we went down to the Prothonotarian's office and we laid out the $785 or whatever it was, which was money that everybody in the group donated. And then it had to be signed off from one of the local judges. And when we got the ballot form back, they crossed out, on the top of the ballot form it says hand ballot recount form, and he crossed hand out. And so when we talked to him, he said, there's no way that we can do a hand recount on this. And I said, well, why not? I mean, we're only looking at 5 precincts. And it's just basically, this is the way we do it. It's our, take it or leave it. So maybe we should have fought it a little bit farther. Instead, we just decided, well, we'll go through with it. Maybe we can spot the ballots as they're being fed into the machine, but it didn't happen. I mean, just as fast as they could throw them through the counter, nobody could see what they were, so it was just a waste of time. And so after this all happened, I got a call from Tony Shute from Audit the Vote, and she wanted to know how we made out. And I told her, and she said virtually every county that had irregularities, and I don't think it was all 67, but there were a lot of counties that were involved in this that reported these irregularities. And every one of them had the hand crossed out in the hand ballot recount form. Somehow or other, all those judges knew that. And everybody knows this. I mean, we have the proof, we have the evidence from multiple counties that this went down. And so, we can say, well, this stuff doesn't go on here, it really happens at the federal level, but here we are on the local level. And it's guys like you that have the power to make those decisions. And we are just beaten down. After a long train of abuses and usurpations, it becomes the right, not only the right, but the duty of the people to throw off such forms of government and institute new forms for our safety and security. Well, here, there is a more egregious violation than when somebody denies us the rights to a fair recount when 5 people who don't even know each other came forth with the exact same problem with their ballots. And they just throw the whole thing under the bus and do nothing about it. And so my question is, since we now live in a world where you have judges who abide by the original intent of the Constitution, and we have judges who, for 100 years ago this year, now have adopted this living Constitution where they just become kings and can rule however they want, and you wonder why there's anarchy when the judiciary itself can't seem to make up its mind what's law and what isn't law. And that is the bottom line where everything else comes to in the judiciary and for us. We're the people, we're the ones that elect you guys. Thank God for, a couple of our founding fathers who saw fit to bring the federal judiciary to a lower level than the legislative or the executive branches because they were unelected, but you guys are elected. How do we know? I don't know if the question should be, are you an original intent or are you living constitution? But how can we know? How can that trust be restored? Because at this point, I like both of you guys, but I'm at the point where my trust is just broken egregiously by politicians everywhere. And how do we know? What words can you say to give us confidence that you're going to uphold the truth of the Constitution?
Okay, so that was a very wide-ranging question. It began with federal judges and then moved down to the local. Let me just begin by saying that I am no Antonin Scalia intellectually, or even a Ruth Bader Ginsburg intellectually. Agree or disagree with her, she's a very smart woman. And she and Antonin Scalia struck up a friendship that lasted for years. And the way Antonin Scalia put it was, I attack ideas, I don't attack people. He was what was called an originalist and a textualist. My foundational legal theory is originalism and textualism. That's where I come from. But I've always been fascinated by this friendship between Scalia and Ginsburg. Both brilliant jurists, just on opposite sides of their beliefs. If they could have a friendship, even though they disagreed on just about everything, why can't we have civil conversations with folks? I can tell you this right now, I don't like being a politician. It's no fun, and it's not who I am personally. I was at Riverfest on Saturday, talking to a nice couple, and the man stopped and said, well, wait a minute, you're McDonald, right? And I said, I am. He took my card, he flung it at me, and hit me in the face with the card, and then walked away. And his wife said, I'm so sorry. I said, don't worry about it, it's fine. You can't have civil conversations anymore. I hate that about running for this office. But I think it's good that this is an elected office. I certainly, when you're talking about the recount of the vote, I don't know if you were talking about federal judges or local judges. I certainly can't second guess anything that a local judge did in that particular instance because I don't know the facts of the case. I didn't hear the presentation. I don't know what law was applied and what law wasn't. I can't answer that question because I wasn't there. I didn't hear the petition. I didn't hear the other side. There's just no way that I can answer that question. And I would not second guess what another judge said, unless it's something that lands on my desk. Your question was so far.
Well, that means we all need trust in our leaders, especially our judges, and we just need to have some confidence. That one isn't broken for a lot of, it's like just the movies. At this point, when it's controlled like this, it's literally controlled. Somebody's marching to a higher runner up or telling them to march it because there's no coincidence that all these county judges just all of a sudden crossed off and didn't allow anybody to put in the ballot. And that's the kind of stuff that breaks down the whole thing in the states that are suspect. Who's bought, who cares, who really is sworn to work the Constitution, and keeping it
this court. You see that on the national level, you see that at the local level. As far as trust is concerned, there is a code of judicial conduct, which Attorney James has mentioned once tonight. It's 41 pages long. I almost have it memorized. Indicates that judges must be courteous, respectful, and polite at all times. Meaning at the grocery store, at the gas station, driving your car, in court, outside of court, here tonight. And I know that I take those rules very seriously, and Attorney James takes those rules very seriously. Because he's cited at every single one of these functions that we've had.
Okay, I don't mean to cut you off, but we're at our, is that good?
Yes.
Okay.
If I've answered this question, it's broad range.
Good? Okay. Attorney James, would you like to?
I thank you. I'll be brief. I think your question was, what words can you say that will make you believe that we'll uphold the Constitution? That was your last question. Is that right? What words can we say that will make you believe that we'll uphold the Constitution? That was your last question, right? I think that was how you ended it.
Well, okay, so, you know, I mean, it really comes down to the original intent of the Constitution. I mean, how do you view your determination?
Well, regardless of that, that was the question that you ended with, and I think that's a really good question. Because we can say whatever we want to say, but it doesn't mean anything. It's the actions that mean things. From day one, I've said the same exact thing. I will follow the rules, what the rules are. If I believe that this is the rule, I'm going to follow it. I've had multiple questions that they know how I'm going to answer, and I've consistently answered the exact same way. I didn't start campaigning until we were allowed to in November of 2024. I've done my best not to say anything that would call into question my ability to be impartial. I've never made any statements to the press, on Facebook. I've been very careful. I've always told everyone, the rules say this, and I'm going to say this. I've never solicited any funds from anyone personally. I have a campaign committee who does it. That's one of the big rules, is that you can't do that. My campaign committee, if they're doing that, that's great. That makes it so that I am being impartial. Nobody can say, hey, he asked for money, I gave him money, he's going to rule for me. These are the things that I have continuously said, and whatever I say is not going to convince you that I'm going to do it, but my action should. So that's how I believe. Why I believe that you should know that I will follow the law is because this last year and a couple months, I said that that's what I was going to do. The code of conduct says what you're supposed to do, and I believe I followed that to a T, and I will continue to do that. So it's not my words, not our words, but our actions that should lead you down the path of what you believe and what you will decide.
So do we have access? I mean, if one of us sees that there was clearly what we felt, what we saw from a ruling or something. I'm not going out here saying, I like this guy and you shouldn't throw him in jail. I don't mean that. But if we see an actual, that was a violation, that was a constitutional violation to happen. Can we call you guys out and at least get an information from that? We can have access like that? That we can know that in the event that something happens so that we can.
Why did you do that?
I mean, like when we can write a congressman or a senator when they do something wrong.
Well, every single one of our decisions should be followed with an order or some sort of opinion that would detail our reasonings based upon the facts of the case, as well as the legal precedent for why we have made a ruling based upon those facts. So that is public, that you can get at the courthouse, and that will should detail what the court's opinion was on why